The next topic that I want to address with you as it relates to debt is the subject of payday loans. Again, this is a topic that is general in nature. A lot of people get into situations pertaining to payday loans that may be problematic, but particularly the military seems to have some trouble in this area. A recent study suggested that about 17% of military members go and get a payday loan at some point in their career. You might know these organizations. If you go to any military installation and drive around the perimeter, you'll probably see some sort of a storefront that offers to give loans out based on your next month's paycheck. Now, to some extent, you know, these are legitimate businesses, so that some of them don't necessarily do anything unlawful, so we can't say that. But what we can say is that these types of businesses have been the source of many problems because historically we've seen a lot of instances where they have engaged, at least some of them, in some pretty unscrupulous practices. The idea that some of them operate with is that they want to trap a person into continually paying interest on a debt. I suppose there are situations where maybe a true emergency is afoot, where you might be left with no other choice than to get a payday loan. But those situations really ought to be pretty few and far between. And I would imagine that most people that are properly and responsibly managing their finances probably would never need, on the averages, to get a payday loan. From a financial perspective, it's really an exceedingly bad idea to get one. You pay interest literally at the highest levels that the law will allow. And we have seen practices where these businesses sometimes will try to cut the corners and do even more than get the lawfully allowed interest. They have been the subject of several attorney general investigations in various states throughout the country. These businesses have been called predatory because of the practice of charging excessive interest and excessive penalties for late payments on the debt. Again, the unscrupulous operators in this area would like to get you into a situation of involuntary servitude. That means that you are constantly working to pay off their debt but will never get there. So again, it's just like that coffee we talked about earlier. You can pay $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee, but before it's over, if you've paid $15 for that cup of coffee, that really ought to be a pretty darn good cup of coffee if it's going to be that much. So really, before you go get a payday loan, you need to think about whether it makes sense on the particular type of expenditure that you are anticipating. I can't imagine any real routine expenses where getting a payday loan is a very good idea at all. If you run into problems with a payday lender, one of the things that you can do is make a report to the Attorney General's office in the state. You would just type in Attorney General into Google or any other search engine, and you'd probably come up with a website almost immediately. And they usually have a complaints page, and you can write out a complaint. And most attorneys general of the state collect this information and will sometimes act upon it once they start seeing bad trends occurring. Another means of redress is to go to your local Better Business Bureau and file a complaint there. Sometimes the Better Business Bureau will intercede upon your behalf and try to negotiate some sort of an outcome. At a minimum, at least you're reporting the bad conduct and providing some sort of a disincentive to engage in it in the future for others.